playoff game in 22 years. So they were ready at Orchard Park, New York, at Rich Stadium. Bruce Smith and the gang ready for the Bills. The fans had the Oilers already buried. It was certainly the house of noise, as opposed to Houston's house of pain. It was plenty of pain, though. Toby Caston mixing it up early. Ray Childress knocks Jim Kelly down. Kelly and Childress and the players knew they were in a tough ball game. Radicic nails Alonzo Highsmith. This was playoff hitting to the first degree. First quarter, the Bills normally run, but Kelly to Andre Reed, Kelly to Pete Metzelaars. Are these the Bills? First series, touchdown, no, dropped by Thurman Thomas. He could have held on. Tommy, how did he get so open on the pick?
Well, it actually wasn't a pick. The defender, Bostic, has to make contact in order for it to be called a pick.
Bills still with a chance to score in the same series, but then Ken Hall's snap goes past Kelly. 15-yard loss. Norwood short on a 50-yard field goal. Nice drive, still no score. Second possession, the Bills are still throwing. Kelly to Chris Burkett for 19 yards. Now watch Jim Kelly on this play, Tommy. This is indicative of the way he looked today.
This is a poised Jim Kelly that I'm sure the Bills are glad to see around playoff time. Here he looks off, looks to his second receiver, leads him perfectly. Going to be a key next week.
Jim Kelly upping his play a notch or two. The Bills then decide, well, we haven't run Thurman Thomas yet. Why don't we? First carry, his longest carry of the season. 41 yards for the rookie before he's knocked out of bounds. He had 7 carries, 75 yards today. Later on the drive, 4th and 1 at about the 2.5. The Bills send in Scott Norwood for the field goal attempt. Jim Kelly runs on the field, calls timeout, convinces Marv Levy to go for it. And the Bills go for it at 4th and 1/2. Play action. But they can't find Metzelaars. Nice defense by Donaldson. 2 trips down the field for Buffalo. No points. Big matchup today, the Bruces.
Well, Bruce Davis had his hands full all day trying to control Mr. Smith. He did a pretty good job of it early in the game. Here you see him popping him out at 325-plus pounds of man, doing a pretty good job on it. Here, as they move Bruce Smith around, he gets up the middle. He finally gets a good sack on Warren Moon.
Pressure also put on Oiler punter Greg Montgomery. Leonard Smith blocks Montgomery's punt. And the Bills, with a big special teams play, one of many on the afternoon. Then Thurman Thomas busting off the right side for 16 yards. He ran like he was shot out of a cannon today. That sets up Rob Riddick. Driving. Touchdown. 7-0 Bills on the Oilers sideline, dapperly dressed in the black ski parka after they get done scrapping. Jerry Glanville knows he's in for a tough afternoon, but so did Warren Moon. He and Drew Hill almost completed it, but no, he's out of bounds. He hits the post pattern. Take another look. Hill clearly juggling the ball. That post pattern was open all day for the Oilers, except when they ran it too close to the post. Hill had to leave the game with a sprained neck. That would be a big loss for Houston. More bad news for the Oilers. Tony Zendejas field goal blocked by Bruce Smith. 4 times the Bills have blocked field goals this year. 7-3 Buffalo at the half over Glanville's gang. In the third quarter, Jim Kelly looks over the middle, but Tracy Eaton will make his first interception of his career. Couldn't come at a better time. Only mistake for Kelly on the day, but at this point it looked like the momentum was shifting. The Oilers driving on 3rd and goal following the INT. Warren Moon, no. Nice contained by Burrows. Pitch for Rozier, goes back out of bounds, and it forces a field goal attempt by Tony Zendejas. He hooks it. The Bills escape unscathed. It's still 7-3. And the momentum shifting as Thurman Thomas takes the pitch right. 10 yards, bowling into the end zone, 14-3 Buffalo. In the fourth quarter, the Bills looking to the knockout punch. 4th and goal, they gamble again rather than field goal, but John Brimsley, the great defensive play, knocking Rob Riddick short, and the Oilers still have a chance. Warren moved back to pass, intercepted by Mark Kelso to the 40, Kelso to the 35, Kelso to the 25. Kelso is stopped at the 8th hole, but a big turnover sets up a field goal. 17-3. First Buffalo interception since week number 11. First one in 5 weeks. Warren Moon, though, did not give up. Showed his class in a money game. Moon to Leonard Harris. 29 big yards. That eventually sets up a 1-yard run by Mike Rozier. And the Bills, as did the Bengals the day before, or the Bears, couldn't put it away. Houston had pulled it within 7, 17-10. The Oilers and Moon looking for one last shot. They stopped the Bills at the 2-minute warning. John Kidd to punt, Curtis Duncan to receive. A year ago, Steve Tisker, a Tasker, was a special playman from the AFC in the Pro Bowl. Makes the hit. Linebacker number 50, Ray Bentley, falls on the ball. It's over. The Bills are celebrating a trip to the AFC Championship game, a trip they haven't made since the 60s, as the Buffalo Bills beat the Houston Oilers 17-10, and Rich Stadium was rocking as the Bills up their home record to 9-0, and after the game, Coach Marv Levy had plenty to say about his special teams.
The media call Wednesday with the Houston media one of the members asked me, said, Coach, Houston has the great special teams, best special teams in the National Football League, and they are good special teams. How are you guys going to handle that? And I repeated the question to our players. And I want to thank whoever asked me that question, because I repeated an honest question to them. It helped to motivate them.
Well, we heard all week, Coach Levy was telling us how good the Houston Oilers say that their special teams were. They said that they were the best in the league. We knew coming into the game that how good our special teams were, and I think they, I guess, really were excited about it, and they really put everything together. I mean, you know, from blocking a kick to really covering the kickoffs. That's why we're #1 in the National Football League in covering kickoffs, and probably #2 overall in special teams. They proved it today.
We watched them on film against Tampa Bay, and they just did a great job of pushing people back and getting about 3-4 yards penetration. And I don't know how they do it. It's just, you know, our offensive line is very good at that, and I don't know. They just got to give them credit. They did a good job on this.
Buffalo did a lot of little things that you don't expect of a team that hadn't been to the playoffs since 1981. And I think Jim Kelly did a lot of big things today. We've been waiting for Kelly to grow up a little bit this season as a quarterback. He was telling everybody, Tommy, he was grown up. He had a point to prove today.
Yeah, and he proved it. We talked this morning about how important it was for Kelly to play well. Early in the game, he was authoritative. I thought he was more accurate than he's been all season, and especially when they couldn't get the ball in and made a couple of mistakes when they got down close early in the game, he kept them poised, kept them ready to play so that they didn't go the way that the Eagles went yesterday.
I would like to ask, why are we listening to anyone named Zendejas commenting on special teams? They are on this earth to destroy humanity, or at least those of us humans who bet on games. But beside that, this was a bitter day for Jerry Glanville. He did take great pride in his special teams. Now he gets a punt blocked, a field goal blocked, a punt fumbled. And beyond that, they didn't even get any good kickoff returns. They were always stopped inside the 20 or very close to the 20. I think Glanville feels a little like he left tickets for Elvis, and they were picked up by Tony Marsala in the Flatbush 3.
In some ways, though, I think the Houston Oilers grew up in defeat. They played a classy game. They learned very early that in Buffalo they were playing a team that could dish them out as hard, if not harder than them. And there wasn't very much cheap stuff. There wasn't cheap stuff at the end when they lost. I think in defeat, though, the Oilers can be proud that they grew up. And certainly in victory, the Buffalo Bills made a major step growing up today.
Not Zendejas.
Well, you'll have to take that up on another program, Pete. The Buffalo Bills are moving on to the playoffs against Cincinnati next week. We'll have more on this game, and we'll take a look at the late game. How special have the special teams been for the Bills this season? Today, as all year, very much so. We'll be right back.
From now on, this is what dry is. Dry is a beer that starts bold from the first taste, finishes clean with no aftertaste, refreshes completely. Dry is a beer called Michelob Dry. One taste, and you'll drink it dry.
You know, thrifty car rentals, thrifty price for everyone.
Well, Henry, this is a good deal. Sign it.
It's an offer you can't refuse.
Sign it.
Why don't you get a larger car to entertain friends?
Now I'll sign it.
Enjoy the luxury of a Chrysler New Yorker, just $34.95 a day at Thrifty. 72-hour advance reservation required.
Go ahead, make my reservation. It's simple. Call 1-800-for-cars.
You know, if I've discovered one thing from driving this new Mazda 929, it's this. Not only does it measure up to the great cars of the world with its luxury and quiet, it more than measures up when you introduce it to your favorite piece of road. The new Mazda 929, a high-performance luxury sedan, the Mazda way.
Leave it to the good hands, people.
Thinking ahead, it's something you started doing the day you learned how to wish and plan and take measures to help your wishes come true, which is just what Allstate Universal Life helps you to do. To plan while protecting your family and save as your family grows at rates that could help make a lot of your wishes a reality. Allstate Universal Life Insurance, another reason
You're in good hands with Allstate.
NFL Primetime is being brought to you by new Michelob Dry. One taste and you'll drink it dry. By Thrifty Car Rental. For worldwide reservations, call 1-800-4CARS. And brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks, including the all-new Mazda MPV.
It had been documented as one of the darkest moments in the history of the San Francisco 49ers, where last year at this very point at home, the Niners were bludgeoned by the Minnesota Vikings 36-24. A chance for atonement this afternoon at Candlestick Park. Could it happen again to San Francisco? Well, Joe Montana was bound and determined not to let it happen again after last year, and for him, worst money game performance. Anthony Carter last year, 227 yards receiving. Could he burn the Niners this time? Well, Wade Wilson was getting burned, sacked 5 times in the first half. Here, Haley Robertson Cox gang up on him. This is a key call early. Vikings led it 3-0 in the first. Wilson dumps one off to Rick Fenny. He's out of the open, but all of a sudden, tweet goes the whistle. Referee Jerry Markwright says in the grass. Replay, Tommy.
Chris, I just think it's a rule that's going to have to be reviewed because it's supposed to be grasp and control, and I hardly see control here.
It was a punt after that, so the Niners take advantage of the break. Joe Montana on the move, as he does so well, taking charge early. He'll tuck the ball in and run for 9 yards. Later on in the drive, the Niners are down to the 2-yard line. 2nd and goal, Montana. Rolling right. Touchdown, Jerry Rice. 7-3 Niners. Rice's first career playoff touchdown. He'd have more after the ensuing kickoff on 1st down. Wilson picked up by the veteran, number 42, Ronnie Lott. Niners in business again deep. Wilson knew that, well, you have to watch for number 42 at all times. Niners run a reverse. Rice runs it. Look at Joe out in front, leading him downfield. Kind of makes the block. Bill Walsh goes, Joe, please, not that. It's a 20-yard gain. 3 plays later, 2nd quarter and 3rd and goal. Montana rolling right. Same end zone, same type of play that he hit Dwight Clark, except this is at the front of the goal line. Touchdown to Jerry Rice, 14-3 Niners. And when Joe gets outside, it adds a whole other dimension, doesn't it, Tom?
He is such a great short thrower and has such great vision, and that accuracy is the best in the league.
15-yard completion here. First half, 10 of 13 Montana. Only 100 yards, but in control. On 3rd and 10, Montana, 12 yards. Jerry Rice, 3 touchdowns on only 4 receptions. That's called economy. And the Niners are into a romp. It got worse for the Vikings. After a fair catch at the last few seconds at the end of the first half, a rarely invoked rule, a free kick. Hofer botches it, which leaves Mac Percival safe. Remember in the 60s, he made one of those against Green Bay. Well, I don't know, some of the young viewers may not. Jerry Burns probably remembers it, though. 21-3 Niners at the half. Anthony Carter, goose eggs. Finally, in the 3rd quarter, Carter gets his hands on a ball, making this 21-yard reception to set up a Wilson to Hassan Jones touchdown pass to make it 21-9. But any hopes the Vikings thought of coming back in this game were ended with this loss at the end zone. On 4th down, Hassan Jones can't come up with it. They turn it over on downs. Wade Wilson threw often, but didn't get it done. And add to injury to insult, or insult to injury, it doesn't matter with Roger Craig. He gets it right, no matter what way you say it. He could go all the way. 80 yards, longest run of his career. 135 yards rushing for Roger Craig. In San Francisco, they were talking just 2 months ago about controversy, about a question at quarterback. Do you think there's any question now? This looks like 84 and 81 to us. The final score, the San Francisco 49ers 34, and the Minnesota Vikings 9, more than atoning for last year, so the Niners move on to play the Chicago Bears in the late game next Sunday. And Tommy, really, let's think about it for a second. Did anybody really think that Joe Montana was done? I mean, did anyone really think that was true?
You know, it's kind of like mixing gasoline and matches. You take the Offensive Player of the Year, Roger Craig, and you tell him, oh, I think you guys forgot how to play in the playoffs. Take a quarterback the caliber of Joe Montana. You're pretty good, but maybe it's over now. You can't win in the playoffs. Jerry Rice, you're a great receiver, but you can't catch TDs in the playoffs. You're building an explosion. Today they exploded right on top of the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, they certainly exploded on top of me since I picked the Vikings, but I'm glad that you mentioned, Chris, that Burns remembers distant history. because I don't think he remembers close history. I mean, last week, way ahead, he takes Wade Wilson out and brings in Tommy Kramer. Today, Wilson can't get anything done. Let's stick with him, Bernsey. Well, you know, it's time we had another feud, Bernsey.
He ran into a juggernaut today, and there's one thing to say about the 49ers. For the first time since 1984 in the playoffs, you can honestly say, these are the 49ers. Our Chris Myers has been getting jet lagged. He was at the game this afternoon at Candlestick Park, and just recently talked with Coach Bill Walsh. Chris?
All right, thanks very much, Chris. The 49ers, their first playoff win since their Super Bowl year of '84. They do it against a team that knocked them off here last year, the Vikings. Was that revenge factor, Bill Walsh, much of a factor this week in preparation?
Not at all. The big preparation was going for the championship this year. It was a big game for us, no matter who we'd have played, and it would have been just as tough. So there wasn't much room for revenge when you're playing somebody like Minnesota in a playoff game.
Two questions, easy to ask, may not be easily done. How did you stop Anthony Carter, and how did you spring Jerry Rice?
Well, Jerry was healthy for this game, and that made a big difference. And with Anthony, we had a lot of pressure on Wade Wilson, and I think we did a great job in our coverage, and we just took it away from him.
Jerry Burns said that domination of the defensive line, pressure on Wade Wilson, was the difference.
Oh, I think it was. I think we went after him with some blitzes, and were able to hold up in our coverage while we did it. I think that pressure just took the edge off, and he couldn't time his passes.
All right, next up, the Chicago Bears. Do you have any plays that work in the fog?
Well, we'll take the fog. It's going to be tough. They're one of the best teams in football. They have a great coach and a great organization, and they could be the team of the 80s.
All right, thanks very much, Coach. Happy New Year, all right, and congratulations. Bill Walsh and the 49ers, winners today. We're at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Let's go back to the studio and Chris Berman.
Yeah, but no team has won 3 Super Bowls in the 80s, and the Niners have that opportunity. The Bears will be going for number 2. And so, the Niners win, the Bills win. And you know what? Souther, Hillman, and Fury, Axe, I know you remember that group. They had a song, Safe at Home. In the divisional playoffs, this year, it was a lock.
America, get an oil change and lube. America, with tune-up clinic. America's favorite tune.
You depend on your car, and you can depend on Tune-Up Clinic to keep it running smooth. Our trained technicians use dynamometers to tune cars to perfection. A 10-minute Valvoline oil change includes a 14-point quality-check inspection. Depend on Tune-Up Clinic, America's favorite tune.
$49 down delivered. This week only at Thornton Chevrolet. The end of the year brings the biggest savings of the year, and $49 down delivers. No credit, slow credit, past credit problems? No problem at Thornton Chevrolet. Buy this week and we'll even pay your ad valorem taxes for you. The last week for huge rebates from the factory through Saturday only at Thornton Chevrolet on the street they named after us, Thornton Road. Take the first exit past Six Flags off I-20 West.
The best football teams ever. ESPN's all-pro team of Mike Patrick and Joe Theismann bring you the head-to-head action of the 1989 Pro Bowl. Sunday, January 29th, live on ESPN.
The Georgia Bulldogs of Vince Dooley in his final game, charging out of Jacksonville, Florida in the Gator Bowl to meet Michigan State. That game coming up at 8 Eastern Time, about 10 minutes from now after prime time. Let's go back now to the 2 games of the day. The Buffalo Bills using defense and hard hitting on special teams, and an uplifting performance by Jim Kelly to beat the Houston Oilers 17-10. And Tommy, we talked special teams. Yes, we heard Marv and everybody talk about them. They were special.
Oh, the key word today was special teams all day. Here, Greg Montgomery trying to get the ball off, and you see the pressure come from the outside. Certainly, you don't want to make a mistake, but I think when you get that kind of pressure, you have to go after that kick. The Oilers becoming conscious of that pressure outside. Leonard Smith sneaks up the middle and finally gets the block. Now, one area that they excelled in all year was their kickoff coverage. They were #1 in the NFL, and they pinned the Oilers down all day, made field position a real problem.
Yeah, well, I think Glanville might hand out some of the helmets to the Bills players. He recognized what he was up against today. Alonzo Highsmith, Axe, when he was in there, he looked great. Wasn't in there enough, was he?
Well, everyone knows that Jerry Glanville is my cult hero, but I think today he was using the wrong running backs. Rozier is running the ball. Highsmith, when he gets in there, does some great blocking. great running. Look at this run down here. And tremendous pass blocking, helped out as much as he could. And Pinkett could also do a good job. They're using their third best running back as their main ball carrier. A mistake. And I hate to say that about a guy that would leave passes for... not enough passes for me today. I don't know.
He didn't leave enough passes for Alonzo Highsmith, 6'1" and 234 pounds. He is a load. And hats off to Marv and his offensive staff like Ted Marchibroda, Jim Ringo. They were so conservative all year. Were they conservative today? No. Ted remembered that, yes, he once coached the Baltimore Colts with Burt Jones, and they were wide open. Thurman Thomas in motion, first play of the game. Thurman Thomas, bottom of your screen, split wide right. All this happening before he even runs with the ball. First drive, Thurman Thomas, the rookie, dropping what would be a touchdown a la Keith Jackson yesterday, but how did he shake it off immediately? Thurman Thomas, 7 carries, 75 yards, second-round pick by the Buffalo Bills. That was their first pick in the draft, and I wonder how many teams who passed up on Thurman Thomas in the first round, maybe Denver, Tom, would be one of them, might have used a running back. This guy plays like a veteran. Now, out of the second game, which the Niners crushed the Minnesota Vikings like a grape, 34-9. Anthony Carter, where was he today, Tommy?
Well, certainly I think that the Minnesota Vikings met a better football team today, but you have to wonder when Anthony Carter walks into the locker room at halftime and has no catches, what are they thinking about doing? The drive, one drive where he caught more than one pass, he had 2 catches on one drive, they get a touchdown.
Actually, we continually look at rules in the game. In the grasp rule, today's sermon, right?
Oh, well, I love the in the grasp rule, and certainly that evoked itself today. But today, Jerry Markbright, one of my very favorite refs, second only to Jerry Seaman, Jerry came up with, he revived intentional grounding. They were passes, the Vikings had one pass that hit the receiver in the hands, and it was called intentional grounding. And then, it's just to show there's no prejudice here, Montana had one that was right in the vicinity of the receiver, intentional grounding. Do you ever get the feeling that Jerry Markbright likes to get attention on television?
You know who should have got attention today? The referee crew in the first game, Gordon McCarter. Thought they did a very good job, and when they went to the replay, they took about 30 seconds and decided it's the only way you can use that. You know who else got attention today? Joe Montana. He is back, and wouldn't it be interesting, as we posed on the show a month ago, if Montana in 81 won a little ahead of his prime, in 84 at his prime, and if the Niners go on to win the Super Bowl, maybe he's good enough to win a little past his prime. It's about the highest accolade you could give an athlete. And here's Joe Montana after a couple of off performances in the playoffs the last 2 years. Today, not great yards, but magic. The Niners are back.
American ingenuity is finding a simple way to do a job well. At Temstar, we applied our ingenuity to home heating. We invented a furnace that's 95.8% efficient. The ingenious part is that the technology is simple, proven reliable. 2 heat exchangers instead of 1, backed by a limited lifetime warranty. The Temstar gas furnace, brought to you by your Temstar dealer.
Beautiful. Is it fast? Very quick. As a matter of fact, the guy didn't know what to think. When Mulholland does 4 curves.
While others describe luxury car performance with words like terminal velocity and lateral G-force,
Like it's on rails.
owners of the Acura Legend Coupe tend to be a little less technical.
It's a blast.
What we have now in the title games coming up next Sunday are rematches. The AFC title game, remember about a month ago, it was Cincinnati 35, Buffalo 21. The Bengals and Bills, the only teams 9-0 undefeated at home all year. The game is at Cincy Axe. What is your early number?
Well, these are not official Las Vegas lines. These are my Fort Lauderdale lines. I'm going to make them up in some saloon in Fort Lauderdale later tonight. But seriously, I have made the Bengals 3.5 over the Bills, and the Bears 3 over the 49ers.
All right, and on that Bengals-Bills game, the Bills are hopeful that Shane Conlon's foot, he didn't play at all today, will be good enough to play next week. The early game is the AFC, the late game is the NFC. Remember, Week 8, Monday night, Bears 10, 49ers 9, and one of the hardest hitting, fiercest game. And actually already said you make the Bears a 3-point favorite. We don't know if it will be Tom Zach or McMahon, but nevertheless, you like them by a field goal.
It will be Tom Zach.
You have that on from your Fort Lauderdale saloon. All right, that's next week as the late game in Chicago. Will it be foggy? We shall see. We'll be back to wrap things up on this edition of NFL Primetime. You were tremendous then, Tom. We'll be right back.
You might expect a guy who flies a jet like this to drive a jet like this, the Mazda MX-6 GT. If you also expect it to fly through the wide open spaces, you're right. But you probably don't expect to find all this wide open space inside. I guess that makes it the one sports coupe which flies in the face of convention. The Mazda MX-6 GT, sports coupe the Mazda way.
In 3 words or less, tell us why you prefer Thrifty Car Rental.
You don't have to be wealthy or well-known to rent any of Thrifty's new Chrysler cars. Thrifty is...
May I remind the affiliates we may run a little over tonight.
Enjoy the luxury of a Chrysler New Yorker, just $34.95 a day at Thrifty. 72-hour advance reservation required.
Have you ever noticed how some people can't come out and say Thrifty price for everyone? Have you ever noticed that? Call 1-800-for-CARS.
New Year's Day, see the Georgia Bulldogs unleash their offensive attack against the heavily armed Michigan State Spartans. It's the only bowl game on New Year's Day. The Mazda Gator Bowl, live on ESPN.
NFL Primetime has been brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks, including the all-new Mazda MPD, and by Thrifty Car Rental. For worldwide reservations, call 1-800-4CARS.
All right, the final 2 pieces of the round of 4. The pieces of those puzzle have been solved today at Buffalo. The Bills' special teams defense beat the Houston Oilers 17-10. NFC Divisional Playoffs today. The San Francisco 49ers all over the Minnesota Vikings 34-9. Next week, we're back to an hour on game day, 11:30 Eastern Time. You watch us for an hour, you go right to the game. No reason to watch anything else. Then on prime time at 7:30, which is our new bat time start for the playoffs. That, of course, will be next Sunday, as we will know by then who is going to the Super Bowl. You picked at the start of the playoffs, Tommy. Chicago and Cincinnati still alive.
Well, it's still alive, and as a linebacker, you have to love this time of year. Defense is the name of the game. 3 out of the top 4 still in.
Axe, you picked Philadelphia and Houston. Close, not still alive. There's always next week.
Well, history has shown. I've never had a losing regular season. I'm very good in the Super Bowl. In the playoffs, I go south.
You're the Rams in the playoffs in the 80s. And I have Buffalo and San Francisco still alive. We'll take our chances next week. We hope to see you next week. Happy New Year once again, everybody. If we're not the first, we hope we're not the last. For Pete Axthelm, for Tom Jackson, I'm Chris Berman. For all of us here at NFL Game Day and NFL Primetime, best wishes in '89. We'll see you next week. The Gator Bowl coming up live next.